a slightly more gloomy forecast, but with a silver lining, is really around what AI means for our relationship with data. We're already seeing now this year and in previous years with the advent of things like deepfake, human-authored content is being diluted rapidly by machine-authored content, by in particular AI-authored content, and that's a really interesting problem. That's only going to probably get worse. And that's important because, really because of human biases around how they relate to data. We tend to believe the first version of things that we hear over subsequent versions. We tend to believe things that chime well with our kind of viewpoints, rather than necessarily credit things because they are sort of well provenanced, well argued, well cited, or whatever. So that's problematic. That as these powerful generative AI models become even more powerful and even more numerous, the amount of data on the internet, for instance, is going to be dominated by machine-generated output, and I think really that has to kind of be dealt with in two ways, really, from sort of both ends of the problem. One is, how do legitimate sources of data provenance that data? You could legitimately use a large language model to generate content that is perfectly accurate and perfectly, in no way misleading, that can easily be cited. But how do you do that? What sort of safeguards around making statements, making claims in AI systems can we put in to ensure that those claims are properly provenanced? Watermarking is something that is already being put in place this year, particularly around generated images. How do we do that in generated text and other generated contents like generated signals? Is a really interesting question, something that we're quite invested in already at Mamuri. And then I guess the other end of the problem is how we think about data. If we accept that most of the data that we're going to encounter from now on is not going to be like the data that our grandparents encountered all their lives, i.e. not generated by a human agent, what sort of kind of conditions on our trust in data do we need to put in place ourselves? How do we raise awareness of the likelihood that just because you've come across something, it doesn't mean that it's something that you can take on face value? How do we sort of teach our children to have that sort of relationship with data, where it is, it is something to be questioned, to be checked? Things like kind of critical thinking skills, I think, will become much more important going forward. And I think, next year, as we do start to tackle that provenance problem, those sorts of questions will come up as well.